Welcome to the True Potential Coach You podcast, where we have practical conversations about life that will help you discover and unleash your potential. And now, your hosts, Ivan and Danelle Fenton.
Hi, this is Ivan.
And this is Danelle, and welcome to our second episode of the Coach You podcast, where today we will be talking about affirmations and how creating affirmations will help you to continue to stay focused and make progress on your goals. Now, when you think of affirmations, think of that phrase or that thing that you say to yourself whenever you encounter a challenge or win something or make a mistake or anything like that. Those phrases that you repeat to yourself. Ivan, tell us a bit more about affirmations.
Thank you, Danelle. I think I'll explain it from a story. One of my friends who work with me, we did a project together, and during that project we worked very closely together, and this friend of mine, I continually heard them saying, "Oh, you stupid," whenever they did something. "Oh, you stupid." And then it started to bother me. Why were they saying this? I mean, they would never say this to me or anyone else, but why are they saying it to themselves? Versus another story of also a colleague. They would continually say, "Oh, the Lord will make it work together for good." After anything that happens, whether good or bad, they used to say this phrase, "Oh, the Lord will make it work together for good." They said it so often that they didn't even think about this. Now, both of them face challenges, both of them face obstacles, but because of their perspective that they affirm, it changed the way they approached what they were facing and how they experienced it. So my one friend who continually said, "Oh, you're stupid," they set themselves up to have a bad experience. They set themselves up to be limited in their ability. Versus my friend who continually says through everything that happens that the Lord will make it work together for good. He set himself up for a more pleasant experience and to live in a more peaceful atmosphere because of what he chooses to affirm.
That actually makes sense, because I'm thinking about whenever I do a workout and the exercise becomes a bit strenuous, I've come to a point where I say to myself, "Come on, Danelle, you can do this." And as I go on, it just boosts my ability, my confidence and my capabilities. And then after I've done it and I've completed the workout, I'm like, you see, I could do it.
Exactly. That is a great example of an affirmation. You can do this, you've got this. Those are all examples of affirming a potential or ability. Affirmations are the statements and the phrases we repeatedly say to ourselves that support a belief that we have of ourselves or the world around us. Affirmations are the phrases that we say to ourselves that remind us of who we think we are and what we can or cannot do. Think of it like this. You have a chest full of different tools and materials to your disposal to tackle whatever you are doing. By your perspective and phrase you use, you either affirm the tools inside or affirm the lack of tools, even if they are there to be used. When we think of affirmations, I just want to put this out there. It's not a name it or claim it situation or a pie in the sky wishful thinking that I fake it till I make it type of thing. It's not at all this. It's a chest full of tools, abilities, talents that you have to your disposal, but what you repeatedly say to yourself either positions you to use those tools or it will actually limit you. That even while you see the tool inside, you think, "Oh, I can never do this. I can never attempt this. I'm not going to even try because of my affirmation." Or, on the other side, it can empower you. "Yes, I see this. I haven't done this often, but I can grow into this. I can attempt this. I can try this. Your internal dialogue reveals what you believe about yourself.
Yeah, I actually discovered this once, and how affirmations can be such a powerful thing that can either position us or thrust us forward or keep us back. So the one time I had to send a message, just a simple text message to a team leader, and I was overthinking and procrastinating sending that message so long that at one stage Ivan actually asked me, what is behind this? Why are you struggling to send this message? It's such a simple activity to do. And then I discovered that I kept saying to myself that I'm so new in the team that I cannot make a contribution. And that made me overthink to such a degree that I was paralyzed to send a text message. But then after I discovered this, I was able to then combat that with the truth. And the truth was that I do have something to offer to the team.
Yes, I think that's a beautiful example of thinking about that chest full of abilities. You do have abilities, experience, and talents to add to your team, to add value. But because of what you were saying to yourself, that limited the usage of those abilities. Affirmations can help you to discover what is there and then develop that over time. And so it's a difference between a growth mindset and what we call a set mindset. A set mindset says there's no growth, we just accept the status quo, we are who we are. You know, my father, he was an angry man, and so I'm an angry man, and so on and so forth. My father wasn't an angry man, just an example. But we accept things and then we surrender and we become a slave to that. Versus having a growth mindset to say, I can grow actually into this. I can attempt this. There was a beautiful story that I read once about a guy who had a certain condition in his legs. The doctors and medical information said it would be nearly impossible for this man to ever run. He would not be able to jog or even attempt a marathon. And then he discovered this truth about what we say to ourselves about our abilities, how we affirm either a limiting belief or a growth belief. And he started saying, no, I'm going to attempt this. I'm going to apply a growth mindset to this. And he started to walk with a different mindset and perspective. He started to go and buy some running shoes, and he started to attempt it with a growth mindset. Eventually, he was able to run a marathon.
Wow. Because
of a growth mindset, because of affirming what was there and then growing in that. We live up to the standard that we set for ourselves.
Yeah.
And affirmations is a wonderful tool that we can use, and we naturally do this, by the way, that we can use to help us to live up to a standard that we set for ourselves that is focused on growth and development versus limitations, and always, just surrendering to the surrounding voices that say you cannot, you will not. And sometimes it's even in reaction to voices of limiting that then you start to say, no, but I can.
Yeah.
And that belief that I can, that affirming of your abilities, that helps you to utilize it, live it out. And then the more you see evidence of that playing out in your life, the more you will nurture that belief and it will become part of you.
Yes, so a practical way to think of it is, if you have a goal, let's say you want to start working towards running 5 kilometers in 30 minutes, then a statement like, I am the fittest runner is not going to work for you. That is, as Ivan said, a pie in the sky idea. However, if you try to change that and say that I can run, regardless of how far you run, whether it is 100 meters or 1 kilometers or even 5 kilometers later on, you add statement or you add evidence to that statement. So you run, I can run, I've run 100 meters, I can run. I've run 1 kilometer, I can run. And so on it goes. And you will start to see that affirmation take shape and build you up in confidence towards your goal.
And that brings us to a very important point and quality that affirmations have, is that it feeds our core beliefs. When we think of our behavior, we many times try and focus to change our behavior, but actually what we need to focus on is our core beliefs. What is behind the behavior? Because what we believe, we think, what we think, we do. And so we tend to focus on the behavior instead of the core belief, which will then ultimately change the behavior.
Yeah.
And that is where affirmations reveal what we believe and how we see the world and our abilities and what we think. What we think then goes over into evidence, and the more evidence we see of that then feeds or affirms my belief. And that is what you were saying about, the example of running 5 kilometers. You work up to it. If you say, I can run, and you put on your running shoes, that is evidence of you becoming a runner. That's where you want to end up, to put it into an action. I am a runner. So it's an identity statement that you speak over yourself.
Yes.
Through the affirmation that I can run. And then ultimately you will find enough evidence, and that then becomes a core belief over yourself that, wow, I am actually a runner.
Yeah.
Something that I saw once when we were on an outreach, I went for a run, thinking about running. And then when I came back, this one lady said, oh, she was praying this morning, and, she was experiencing that she will learn from an athlete, which was a very strange statement. And she said, oh, I've been learning from you so much, and now you ran, you are an athlete.
Yeah.
And then I realized I never thought of myself as being an athlete. That's where we want to get to. We want to get to a place where our affirmations feed the core statement, the identity statement that we want to live out. For example, from a Christian perspective, I am a child of God. Many of us say that, we hear it in church and we read it in the Bible, but we don't really believe it.
Yeah.
Through affirmations, we can actually start to sow seeds into our hearts to form core beliefs that, yes, I am a child of God, and then you start to see evidence of that.
Absolutely.
In one of our recent blog posts, we worked on a blog together about affirmations, and you quoted one of the authors that both of us enjoy a lot, John Acuff. I would love for you to just talk about that and let our listeners know a little bit about what you wrote there when you quoted John Acuff, because I feel that it really ties into the importance of affirmations and goals.
I love the quote by John Acuff in his book Soundtracks, and I have to say that anyone and everyone should read that book. And in that book, he likened affirmations to soundtracks, basically the music of your life. And he said that, do you know what happens when you listen to new soundtracks? Now, I've added in there positive and truthful soundtracks. You give your dreams more time, creativity, and productivity. And I think it just speaks so much to acknowledging the potential that lies within you to complete a goal, to complete a dream, to reach for that thing that you want to achieve. And in another blog, as I did research for our blog, Dr. Tracy Stein wrote that affirmations can serve as an important tool to staying on track and staving off feelings of discouragement. Now, we've all had that time when we hit a wall when we are working towards our goals. And you can either then sit there and wallow in the fact that you've hit a wall, or you can affirm the potential that is within you, that you are indeed able to overcome this obstacle. You are indeed able to push through and reach the next step in your goal. And I've seen this in my own life and in my own goal let's just use the workout goal that we've used the previous time as well, that every time where I say, I can do this, while I'm struggling, while I'm sweating and I'm tired, I'm saying to myself, come on, Donnell, you can do this. And I found that when I've completed that workout, I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm looking forward to overcoming that obstacle. And that is what I feel affirmations does. And that is what I felt that John Acuff also explained well in his book. Ivan, from the coaching that you have done, what have you seen are some of the building blocks for affirmations?
I think some of the things that I've seen, but just before I get to that, I'm thinking about what you were saying now. We basically give our potential and our abilities more of our, time. So by thinking through that affirmation and repeating that over and over, we give that rental space within our minds.
Yeah.
And by giving that more rental space, it helps us to focus. And that's where it comes to goals. It helps us to remain focused and motivated within our goals. Creating affirmations, I found the next couple of building blocks that will really help to make it practical for you to understand. The building blocks are as follows. Identify the truth, create a statement that supports that truth, and then seek evidence. Creating new affirmations can really be easy and it should be fun. The steps that I've mentioned now could be laid out like this. You identify potential in your life. For example, exercising, running, reading, learning, whatever it may be. Then you create a statement that supports that potential. Yes, I can read. Yes, I can run, or whatever the case may be. And then you start to look for evidence that supports that. Every time you read, you say, yes, this is true. I can read. Or every time you run, or every time you walk, exercise. Yes, I am an exerciser, or I can exercise. And then you will see a transformation starting to happen. An example that I love to use, and I've borrowed this from someone else, is the be like the buffalo. It's a statement that I love to use, and it basically means this. In nature, we find that cows normally run away from a storm, which prolongs the time that they are in the storm, because the clouds blow over them and they continually just run with the rain and the storm. Where a buffalo turns into the storm and runs through it, which then shortens the time that they are in the storm, because they face it, they face it head on. The statement for me, be like the buffalo, helps me to overcome challenges. So I say that to myself before I need to challenge or tackle something that is difficult for me. It's like, even be like the buffalo. It's a catchy and a funny statement. But it helps me to remember that just shorten that time that you are in the storm. You don't have to drag it out. Don't be like the cow that runs away from the storm.
Be like a buffalo.
And then I start to look for evidence. Every time I tackle something, I start to look for that evidence, and then that reinforces. It's like a circle where it reinforces, the one reinforces the other. So you want to continually close that circle as you go along.
Yes, I like what you said, that you've also borrowed affirmations from the world around you and from what you've learned and heard around you. And I've also have one that I like, and it is that my life is dope. And I've borrowed it actually from the book in Soundtracks. I've borrowed it there, and it just says that I really like my life, and it helps me to, when there are challenges, I'm able to say, hey, regardless of the challenge, my life is dope. So Ivan, you've mentioned earlier that that you have a friend who likes to say to herself, oh, you stupid, whenever she makes a mistake. So that's a negative affirmation. So can you help us to replace negative affirmations?
Yes, most certainly. And I see this a lot within coaching, that we instinctively create these negative affirmations. And a lot of it has to do with survival. Whenever we try and stay away from a hot plate or whatever, we say to ourselves, remember that's hot. But we instinctively do that with our abilities, which is not also always helpful to us. Now, replacing negative affirmations will, I must be honest, take intentional effort, because they have been proven over so many circumstances, situations, and years, that you've gained and collected a lot of evidence for that negative affirmation. So to overcome that and replace that with a positive affirmation will take some time, and you need to give yourself that grace that this will take time, but it can be done. I've seen it in my own life, and I've seen so many people that I've coached, they have done it. Now, how to do this? Well, a good place to start is to just become aware of what you are saying to yourself. I like to call this an internal narrative audit, where you just start to become aware of what are you saying to yourself, what are the negative affirmations that you are continually speaking over yourself and affirming in your life that will limit you. If you have deeply rooted negative affirmations, you won't even always hear it for yourself. So you can give someone permission in your life that is close to you, a friend or a spouse, a sibling. Give that person permission to say, hey, can you tell me whenever I say something negative over myself? Like my friend who continually said, without even acknowledging or knowing, they said, I'm so stupid, I'm so stupid. Now I could tell them, hey, did you know that you continually say this over yourself? Mm-hmm. And that helps us to become aware of that. That's the first step in overcoming these negative affirmations.
I just want to say also, with the evidence that have been substantiating the negative affirmations, it's not necessarily that there is evidence of that person being stupid or that person being a failure. Maybe it was just evidence of being human. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we plan something and we fail. Now, unfortunately, if we think of ourselves as a failure, when we naturally stray from the path or make a mistake or fail in something that we do, our brains are going to add that then to that statement, saying, see, this is evidence, you're a failure. We're not saying that there is evidence of you being a failure. There has been evidence that there have been times where you've made a mistake.
Yes, exactly. And we need to just become aware that this is an affirmation that I've been speaking over myself, so that awareness will then help us to bring those things into the light. When we bring it into the light, we can then expose it to the truth, and then over time start to replace the lie that we started to believe over ourselves, or the limiting statement that we started to speak over ourselves. We can then replace that with truth statements and identity statements, affirmations that actually affirm our ability and not our limitation.
Yes.
That's the other thing about negative affirmations. Tend to focus on areas that we are a little bit weaker in, areas that we are not so strong as others. We compare ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we create these limitations that I will never be able to do this, or I cannot be creative, I cannot do this or that or the next thing. And then that continues to limit our lives and our capacity and our joy. All of this is about living to the full extent the joy that the Lord has for us.
Yes.
And it's living from the place that He has given us a life and life in abundance. All unique with different abilities and skills. But living that out into the fullness of life means we accept everything that God has given us. Exactly. And that's where affirmations helps us. Now, within our goals, that is key, because it motivates us. It helps us to keep our focus, and specifically when we do fail, affirmations help us to reframe those failures into launching pads for success. Now, I know that sounds like a bumper sticker, but it is really true.
Yeah.
Our failures do become a launching pad of learning, growing experience, building grit and tenacity when we have the right affirmations to help us stay on track. And that is a key factor of goals, because goals take time, and because it takes time, we need to continually affirm that ability that will help us to reach our goal.
Yes. So even in short, when we are looking to replace negative statements or we want to create new affirmations, we identify the truth, we create a statement that supports the truth, and then we start to seek evidence. Now, I want to invite you, if you are struggling to identify a truth in yourself, a great source where you can go and look is the Bible. The Bible is full of amazing statements about who God created you to be. I mean, if we think about the very famous one in Psalm 139, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. That is an amazing statement that you can say to yourself. And it is identifying a truth. It is a statement that's already created. And all you have to do is start to seek the evidence. So if you contribute value to someone's life, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I contribute value. That's evidence. I want to challenge you to go and make these affirmations. Acknowledge the potential that God has put in you and has placed in you, and take time to overcome negative statements with the truth. Because when you do that, you will start unleashing your potential. So because this is a Coach You podcast, and we want to equip you with good questions to challenge you and to give you the tools to start making steps forward, Ivan, tell us, what is the Coach You challenge or question for this week?
Thank you so much, Tanel. And I think I mentioned a little bit of it earlier. The first step is really to take an internal audit of your internal dialogue. And all that you need to do is you just need to become mindful of what do you repeatedly say to yourself. And also, like I mentioned, give those around you permission to also help you to see some of them. And then what you do is you just take note of it. And over a week, you will start to see patterns forming of affirmations in your life. Positive or negative. It's not always negative. Some of them are really good and helpful, and we want to continue to build upon that. But we also want to take note of the negative ones so that we can replace that with more positive and helpful affirmations that will help us to extract some of our ability. So start by taking an internal audit, and you just take note of it. Over a week, you identify the patterns and the themes. That's basically the Coach You challenge that I want to pose to you. And friends, through all of this affirmations, it's really helpful for someone to coach you through this process over a couple of sessions. I want to really encourage you, if you want to find out more about the coaching that we provide, you are most welcome to give us a call or get in touch with us to see how we can help you to move forward with creating some of those affirmations that will move you forward. What I have seen with all of the people that I've coached, it makes a difference in people's lives, and it's made a difference in my life. So I really want to encourage you to find a coach to also guide you through this, because this is only the first step, is to identify, but then the next steps do come in where we need to now create new affirmations. And that does take time and accountability, which a coach can give you.
Please feel free to go to our website, which is www.true-potential.co.za, and you will find a lot of information about the coaching that we provide, and you will also be able to book a 30-minute session that is for free, and it is a trial session that you can take with Ivan.
Most certainly. And I also want to just remind all of our listeners that our True Potential Goals Journal is out and it has been published. It really works very well. I've been using mine. I've been enjoying it a lot. It's been challenging me. And so I want to encourage you. There is an affirmation builder.
Yes.
There's a toolkit inside of the Goals Journal that you can use to start to create your own affirmations. And get your copy today. And enjoy to see how your life is being transformed by affirming your abilities.
Absolutely.
Have a wonderful week.
Have a lovely week.